Welcome to the Scott My Show, a podcast where we talk about bodybuilding, health improvement, and physique enhancement. Before we get into the show, I just wanted to let you know that I do offer one-on-one coaching. If you're interested in working with me, I offer personalized coaching where I can help you reach your goals, whether it be fat loss, building muscle, improving your health, or all the above. I provide tailored nutrition, training, and supplementation advice, one or all of those together, with 24/7 ongoing support to help you every step of the way with any questions you may have. If you're interested, you can DM me on Instagram, click the link in my profile to fill out a form, or ask any questions you may have. Also, we can hop on a free consult call where we can go over your goals, answer questions, and discuss what it would look like to work together. The show is brought to you by Element Electrolytes, and for a limited time, the Element Chocolate Medley is available with 3 flavors: chocolate mint, chocolate chai, and chocolate raspberry. They all go really well in any hot beverage, whether it's coffee, tea, or just a glass of hot water. And I personally love Element Electrolytes, and my wife does too. We've been using them for years. They're a great way to help boost performance, to help you get in the proper amount of electrolytes for a day, and help regulate brain health, physical health. Uh, Salt is important for a lot of things, and just drinking plain water doesn't get you the electrolytes you need. So check out Element in the description, or you can go to drinkelement.com/Scott Mize, and there you'll be able to get a free sample pack when you use my link and help support the show. Thank you. This is a quick disclaimer before we start the show. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Nothing said here should be taken as medical advice, and please consult with your physician before making any changes to your diet, exercise regime, or medications. Thank you, and on to the show. Amy Kilian returns as a guest on the show today. Last time we talked about her background in plastic surgery, how plastic surgery has affected her own as well as clients' views of beauty and their body image, and her experience as a nutritional therapy practitioner. That was one of my favorite podcasts of all time, and I got great feedback on it. So please go check that out if you haven't. Amy is also a dedicated NPC Bikini competitor / bodybuilder, and that's mostly what we'll focus on today. So welcome back to the show, Amy.
Thank you, Scott. I'm super excited. I love talking about bodybuilding.
Yeah, great. So I think would be great to start with, I think we covered a little bit in the last episode, but what kind of got you into bodybuilding, and when did you start like training for bodybuilding? Even like had had you picked out a show? Had you planned to compete at that point, or was it kind of like the training first? How did that evolve for you?
It was definitely the training first. So I,
Okay.
grew up in a ski area. So I was always really like throughout my life, I mean, from my teenage years on, like focused on like, maintaining strength and like building up my legs for skiing and, really trying to like stay active, working out we had a cool community center gym at the time, and then just kind of maintaining that throughout like the next couple of decades. Uh, but I didn't really, I followed men's bodybuilding, but the women's categories were pretty limited back in the day, and they weren't
Mm,
really the aesthetic that I thought was like achievable. Like even though I would read like Muscle and Fitness and look at all of these things, but I just saw those women as like a physique that was completely unattainable to me
yeah.
until the bikini category came around. And that was around the time I was moving to Denver, like in those 2010 to 2013 years, and I decided to kind of get more serious. And since I was in a city now, I could get a personal trainer. So hired a personal trainer, and he asked me one day if I would come in and work out with one of his bikini competitors because she kind of needed a little bit of a push. She had a tough leg day and she was kind of needing some motivation, and he thought that it would be helpful to have somebody work out with her. And it just turned out that she lived like kind of on my way home, and she would walk to the gym. So I just started giving her rides home, and she and I just kept chatting, and I learned a lot more about it. I went to her show.
Cool.
Um, and then I knew from that moment on, like I wanted to do it. It still took a while from there before I got on stage
Yeah.
because life and everything, I kept training with a lot of intensity.
How long ago
Um,
was this?
so that was like 2013, 14.
Okay.
Yep. And in amongst that time, I also, one of my best friends started doing bikini competitions. And so I watched her compete. She competed between like that 2013 to like 2017 are the years that she competed. And those also just happened to be the years that like work was just insanely busy. And I had a lot of other like family commitments and things. So it's like I had a coach and I was like planning to compete, but it never really came together.
Yeah.
Never officially picked a show. And it just kind of, like I said, it never fell into place. So
Yeah.
then, I have been training all this time, kept having coaches, and it wasn't until like 2001 when I got like super serious and got the coach I have now. And it kind of started off, it didn't even start off as competing because I will be honest, I kind of thought that maybe it was just never going to happen for me, was kind of what I thought. Because it had been a while that I'd been wanting to, and it just never seemed to work out. So I challenged my boss to do a best year of your life challenge because he was turning 50. And I said, well, you pick something and I'm going to do a photo shoot. Like that was my goal. So I'm like, I
Cool.
just want to do like a fitness oriented photo shoot.
Yeah.
Started working with this coach and like started progressing and like, oh my gosh, like it just kind of was working. Like everything was kind of coming together. I'm like, well, why don't I just do a show? Like if I'm going to put all this work into doing this photo
Yeah.
shoot, I should just do a show. And the rest is history. Here we are 3 years
Cool.
later, and I've done a couple of shows a season. And
Yeah.
yeah,
So this was your third year competing or your second year?
yep, third.
Oh,
Yep.
cool. Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. Very similar for me. I like never thought of competing or anything like that. I was like, that's cool. That's way out of my league. And then I did a photo shoot last April and I was like, I love this. Like, this would be really fun. I think I could do a show. And then a year later I did. And so, yeah, very, very interesting.
When is your next show? Do you know yet when you're
Yeah,
competing next?
I'm gonna target North Americans next August,
Okay.
which is in
Mhm.
Pittsburgh, and I'll do a local show like 2 to 4 weeks before that. There's like shows every weekend here in New Jersey slash New York, so that's really
Yeah.
easy. And I'm gonna do classic. Um, so that'll
Nice.
be fun.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah. I did classic and open at my last show, and uh, I don't think I'll make light heavyweight again. And the
Mm.
heavyweights are just going to be a lot bigger than me and shorter than me. So I have to do classic. But it'll be my
Oh,
last year competing. I'll be done competing after this next year, and I'm just going to be one of the old guys in the gym who lifts weights. So
right.
I'll be
Just be
fun.
one of those really fit guys.
Yeah. Yeah, focus a little bit more on cardio and trying to get my heart rate down and stuff like that.
Yeah. Like have a health phase or a health
Yeah,
span.
yeah, exactly. So that's really cool. And on the nutrition side, were you like, I know you've had a really good base in nutrition your whole life, and being a nutritional therapy practitioner, how did the eating side of it evolve for you? Even like before preps, did you start eating more bodybuilder like, and what changes did you make there?
Yeah, I really did. And it was going way back in time. So when I hired my first coach, like with the goal of competing, this was back in 2014. And it was when, macro tracking or IFYM was really kind of becoming a thing. And it was crazy. There were things like I was weighing stuff and, measuring my meals and even things like he had me start weighing, and I still do. I use my scale for everything now, weighing my protein powder, which at the time I was like, wow, this guy is like super OCD. Like it's one scoop. Like how much different could it
Yeah,
be? And I
yeah,
learned it can be a lot different.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right. Like there's a big variance in those scoops. So that's what started it. And I never really let go of that. I was always somebody who meal prepped, like for work and just like growing up in a kind of remote area, always having like meals prepped and with me during like long days and never know if you're gonna get stuck in the car. I mean, like being trapped in a blizzard was a legitimate thing that could happen on your way home from work. So you better plan an extra meal. So I was always a meal planner and like prepper. I didn't know how to do it as a bodybuilder until I started getting more into it.
Yeah,
I did it along those years, did have a coach who, would give out like cookie cutter plans. And here's like
sure.
literally like the whitefish and asparagus diet, eating like 800 calories a day. So I saw good and bad amongst these years. I worked with um, a coach in 2020. Yeah. Thinking that maybe I wanted to have a meal plan coach, and that's what she did, and found that that was just really not a great fit for me. So my coach now, does provide macros,
Yeah,
and then I still plan. So it's not like I'm doing IFYM. Like I take those
yeah,
macros, build a meal plan for myself, and then just eat that, and I love
yeah.
it.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I've always done as well. I think it's because the first coach I had was very, here are your macros, just eat whatever you want throughout the day. And then even as I had coaches who would give me meal plans, I would always just be like, hey, can I just do this? And like when you tell me to add this much rice, I'll just like convert it to carbs and do that. And it's just easy for me because my meals are very simple and like standard. And it's very easy for me to make adjustments by just saying, like the only things I measure now are I measure the rice raw when I put it in the rice cooker in the morning, and I measure
Yeah.
my proteins throughout the day. So that's the only things I have to weigh the whole day. So it's very straightforward. So I can easily dial that up or down. Um,
Yeah, it makes life so much easier.
yeah. And was it like more meal frequency? How did the eating style change for you? You mentioned like having more uh, regimented meal plans, but like what changed about the actual composition of food versus what you had done previously?
It was more about timing, I
Okay.
think was the
Yeah.
big thing, was, eating with the goal of improving performance
Yeah.
versus satiety, just like eating kind of when you felt like it,
Yeah.
which could be hard, and
Yeah.
I work a busy job and there were times when I would have like long spans of time where I couldn't eat, and like learning to adjust my food intake around my activity instead of like of what a lot of women, and this is so sad with women, I think still fall into this, like eating as a reward or
Mm,
eating to like justify activity. So it was
mm,
different in like eating to fuel activity, I think was really the big like kind of mind shift
yeah.
change that happened.
Yeah. Is that something you see in a lot of your nutritional therapy practice? Like,
Yeah.
especially with women, I'm curious, like what types of patterns around that you see. One thing my wife talks about a lot at work is like people using food, especially in like a corporate office where they have a lot of snacks and stuff like that, as like, oh, I'm going to eat this thing and then I'm going to go do this hard piece of work.
Mhm.
Even though it's not like physical, it's like a reward or like a trade-off kind of thing.
Yep.
Is that the type of thing you see a lot, or I guess what do you see?
Yeah, I would say that the two biggest things that I see with women, like, and I'm not talking about bodybuilding women, I'm talking about like lifestyle women, is that they feel like they get some sense of like accomplishment or justification out of kind of semi-starving themselves.
Hmm.
Like that if they don't feel like they're starving, that they are not working hard enough, and that there's some morality attached to how much food they eat, but in the smallest way possible. Like that they, if they're, that they should never eat more than 1,500 calories a day. Like I would like that myth to die. Or even I have women who come in and they're eating like 1,200 calories a day,
Wow.
but they're eating, they're also drinking a big glass of wine as part of that
Yeah.
1,200 calories. So they just
Jeez.
don't know how to eat for like nutrition, like to get anything nutritious out of food and as a reward. I mean, for sure you see that with, I think that's men and women who kind of
Yeah,
eat to reward themselves.
definitely.
Like you are
Definitely.
not a dog. Food is not a treat.
Yeah, that's a great point. Um, and how was it for you? Like, how did your training um change over the years? Like, what style of training do you like? Do you like training higher volume? How many days a week do you like to train? Um, what types of exercises do you like to do? How would you describe your training style?
Oh, well, it has evolved. So I did have a coach for a little while who would give me different rest day and workout day macros. So what did
Okay.
I do? I just lifted 7 days a week because my rest day macros were really low. And I'm like, well, then I'll just work out 7 days a week. Like
No
this is
rest
fine.
days.
Exactly. And I did that for like a straight year. I would never take a rest day because I didn't want to eat the rest day calories. So again, I have learned my lessons and I have done good and bad. I also have had coaches that programmed like really more like like strength based, but more like powerlifting kind of programming
Okay.
that I don't love.
Yeah.
And some of that too, as I've aged, I've had to adapt to different training styles. But like right now, I like, anywhere from 4 to 5 days a week. So I like having 2 to 3 rest days, depending on the season I'm in. Typically in my off season, I do get an extra rest day. So I usually do a 4 day split in the off season. During prep, I'm usually a 5 day split. And part of that so that the workouts can be like a little bit easier is not the right way, but like a little bit shorter
Yeah.
to allow for more cardio potentially, or just to not have such a burden with each workout so that they're a little bit easier to recover from.
Got it.
And I like bodybuilder. I like hypertrophy style training, anywhere in the 8 to 20 rep range, let's say, depending on the muscle I'm trying to hit. And, as a bikini competitor, I might be, hitting shoulders with maybe a little bit higher volume, a little less weight.
Okay.
Uh, legs might be kind of a combination depending on the workout. I usually do have like 3 leg workouts a week, one
Cool.
which is like a primarily glute focused, and then the other two a little bit more well-rounded. But
Okay.
I love lifting. And so the 7 day a week thing was at the time was not a bad thing. I don't think I could go back
Yeah.
to doing that now, even with all the macros.
Yeah. It's sometimes funny, bodybuilders, especially male bodybuilders, have this thing like if you're not taking 2 rest days a week, you're not working hard enough in the gym. And like one side of me is like, yes, rest is very important for like recovery and growth and totally get it. But on the other side of the coin, like what professional sport do people rest completely 2 days a week? Like you never
Right.
hear of like NBA players or any other type of athlete being like, yeah, we have 2 complete rest days a week. Even like even more physical sports like running or obviously it's endurance, but even like sprinters, they're doing 2 days, like 6 days a week or something like that. So it's kind of strange for people to be like so averse to working out more often, especially if you're spreading out the amount of work. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, and even just the like using your workout time for like functional stuff as well, or stretching or mobility, that can
Yeah,
be part of it. And I think that feeds that need to maybe be in the gym every day. Like if
yeah,
that's, where you kind of get your energy from or
yeah,
whatever, like going in and doing some mobility or some functional style training.
yeah.
That is one thing my coach had on my plan last year that I told him at the beginning of prep. I was hoping I'd get through prep without having to add in he called it a functional fitness day, which was basically like burpees and rope battle ropes, and like it was crazy high intensity, and I would dread that workout all week long because it would just like murder me, because it was
Yeah.
also you trying to do it as fast as you possibly
Wow.
can. Oh, and yeah, this season I didn't need to do it and I got super
Good.
lean.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely did. Um, and like, how would you say in general, like women's bodybuilding training is different than men, or is it not that different?
I don't think it's that different. I think that's a myth. I mean, of course, depending on the division, if you are in a division like wellness, yes, you're probably going to spend far more time working your lower extremities than most men will. But for the rest of the categories, I mean, they're pretty well balanced top to bottom, so you're
Yeah.
trying to build balance overall. Um, and how you get there, I think there's a lot of dogma with everything in sports, right? In
Sure.
nutrition and weightlifting, but making sure that you have a program that you're able to get the hypertrophy you need in the muscle groups that you need to be targeting and also recover appropriately. I think those are the big things. And that's the same for men and women.
Yeah. Yeah, and hypertrophy works the same way, like rep ranges and intensity and all those things are the same, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's funny when people like try to make it out like the different genders need totally different workouts. It's kind of strange.
Yeah.
Um, and how about cardio? Like what types of cardio do you like to do? And I guess how did cardio evolve for you throughout prep?
So this year, I think I was the one kind of pushing the cardio. I think my coach probably would have had me doing less, but I like to do cardio. It's kind of like my mental time, where I can just kind of zone out. It's also the only time I allow myself to use TikTok, which I know is a terrible habit, but it just kind of is like part of my routines. Like I like keeping in like 30 minutes of cardio, anywhere 5 to 6 days a week.
Yeah.
So we kept it. The only time he didn't even increase it. I'm the one who increased it a little bit toward the end because he likes me to split my cardio kind of those last couple weeks before the show, or even just like the last 2 weeks, doing some fasted and then some later in the day. Also, like he'd split the 30 minutes into like 20 and 10. And I'm like, well, I'm already here. I'm just going to do
Yeah.
the 30 and I'll come back and do the 10 later.
Yeah. Yeah. That
And I
makes sense.
told him this. I mean, it's not like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wasn't hiding it from
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
But in previous years, and this was so the most cardio I did, and this was again, he only programmed 30, but I was doing anywhere from 40 to 45 at the very end of prep
Okay.
this year. Last year, it was higher. I was doing a lot more cardio last year, and I was also doing it mostly on the elliptical until the very end when I switched to stairs. And I did the same thing this year. Like I kind of do elliptical in the beginning,
Okay.
and then as it gets closer, I feel like I have maybe like the ability to recover a little bit more because Wow, I know it seems weird, but like my calories were going up at the end of prep. So I did feel
Yeah.
like I had more ability
Yeah.
to recover. So I added in
Makes
the
sense.
stairs because like I like the stairs.
Yeah. I also feel like when you're lighter, you get to this point, it kind of waxes and wanes, but you get to this point where you're like more energetic and like
Hmm.
it's easier to move and you're lighter, so it's easier to go upstairs.
Oh,
So that makes sense.
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
It's so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed doing cardio during prep. It definitely um was something I haven't done a lot of cardio historically because I need to eat so much food. Like,
Mm.
I'm only 230 pounds right now and I'm pushing 6,000 calories.
Wow.
And like during prep, the lowest my calories ever got was like 3,100. It was like,
Wow.
and that was like a couple days a week, you know. It was
Wow.
I was doing multiple 1,000 gram of carb refeeds a week. Yeah, I have a very
Which is
fast metabolism.
nuts. Yeah.
So adding cardio kind of doesn't make sense sometimes. I also live in the city, so I walk a ton. So I have a lot of steps and a lot of neat. Um, but I did do it this prep, especially towards the end, and I really enjoyed the ritual, just like you said. Like it sounds corny, but I watched like old 80s and 90s bodybuilding videos on YouTube from like the DVDs that people had uploaded. So it'd be
I
like
love
Jay
that.
Cutler or like
Yes.
Kai Green or whoever. Kevin Levrone, and it was just really fun to watch those videos. So
Yeah.
that's what I did at the gym.
Honestly, that's awesome. And I also, like you, I walk all everywhere, so
Yeah.
even to and from the gym, I mean, to the grocery store, like I rarely drive during the week, like rarely will drive. So same thing like that. I think that neat kind of keeps your metabolism a little bit stoked throughout the day.
Yeah.
But there is just that you get that little bit of peace and quiet. The other thing I would do is if I was the only person in the gym in the morning, I would turn the lights off.
Nice.
So I would do my cardio in the
That's really
dark.
peaceful.
Yes, it
Yeah.
was so peaceful. It was
Yeah.
like this moment of solace before
Oh,
like a crazy day started.
I would love that. Yeah. No, I come from an endurance background. I rode in college and high school and even middle school. And so, no stranger to early mornings and no stranger to like 4 to 6 hours of cardio a day. I
Yikes.
tell my friends like who just love lifting weights, I'm like, I really like bodybuilding. Training for me is like, eh. Like I love honestly, if I could get the same gains from doing like hit workouts on the elliptical, I would just do that. Like I'm crazy like that. I just love like challenging myself, like setting new pace. Like even on the machines, I'll be like, oh, how many calories can I get in this amount of time? And like, what can I get for this interval? And it's like, I'm crazy like that. I'm always setting like little goals for myself.
Yes, so my goal is to always have all of the records on the stair machine for the week. It only keeps like five or six, and I want them all to be me.
That's awesome. I have a lot of respect for that.
If
Uh,
someone else's name pops up, I'm like, who was here?
how dare you?
Right. Used
Um,
my machine and beat my time.
and so you've been competing for 3 years and you've competed every year. Have you done multiple shows every year, or is it sometimes been just
This just this year and last year. Yes. So
okay?
last year I did two shows. This year I had planned on doing 3 to 4 shows because I'm
Wow.
crazy like that. And I ended up doing two.
Yeah.
Although there is a show next weekend, and I was seriously tempted to say to my coach this morning, like, so we just do this walk-on show next week, even though I've been in a reverse for a month.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Try a fuller look.
I'm not going to. Right. That's really it. I'm like, well, they didn't like me super
Yeah.
lean. Like, let's see how they like me
Yeah.
4 weeks post show.
Yeah. No, that's cool. And what has brought you to want to compete each year? Like you seem like a very structured and competitive person, so I get that. But um, what what's your mindset around competing each year?
I mean, there's two things. Like mostly it's just really a lot of fun. Right.
Yeah,
It's cool to see how far you can push your body. And every
yeah,
year I'm able to push it in a different way. I mean, this year I never thought I could get this lean. I mean, even still, like I was looking at my legs last night. I'm like, wow, like my skin is still just thinned out and like I'm lean.
yeah.
And I feel like I don't even appreciate how lean I am. Like other people will say it, and I'm like, yeah, but am I? Because you
You are.
don't realize it. Yeah, I know. Like someone at the Olympia said, like, whoa, like you've got like, there's like nothing on your abs except skin. I'm like, yeah, there's a little bit of fat there. You don't realize it when you're in it. And I think
Yeah.
that's the part of it too, that when you look back on it, you're like, wow, like I did that. Even my show from like September or from August, I was looking at the pictures. I'm like, oh yeah, I did that. Like
Yeah.
it's that sense of accomplishment and also
Yeah.
just seeing how far you can push it. And I'm
Yeah.
also kind of the mindset of like, why not?
Yeah.
Like make hay while the sun shines. Like
Yeah.
I don't have, goals to have a family or anything else in life. So I'm like, I'm going to compete until I either don't like it or I can't.
Yeah. That's awesome. I really like that. Yeah. I competed in April and I already feel like it's been too long
Right?
since my show. I'm like, what am I doing?
Right.
When am I
Like
going to start competing?
when does
You
prep
know?
start?
Yeah,
Yes. I was thinking that
exactly.
this where I'm like, so if it's, basically November, like
Yeah.
probably start prep in like May.
Yeah. Yeah. How long was prep for you this year?
It was shorter than we had initially planned. So we
Okay.
initially planned on like a 24, 25 week prep,
Okay.
kind of having like 20 weeks of prep and then a few weeks to kind of reverse into the shows. Well, I kept moving the date up on my shows. So initially I was
Okay.
going to do a show in October and in November. And then I'm like, oh, well, there's also the show in September. And then like, oh, a friend of mine is doing the show in August. So it ended up by the time I got on stage in August, I think it was like 12 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. And then the next show was about 6 weeks later. So 12 and 18 weeks.
Crazy.
So I
Yeah.
didn't even make it to the 20-week mark.
Wow. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it worked. Maybe that's the ticket for you is shorter preps.
Yeah. And I mean, from the start of prep until like my show weight, I only really had like a 6 to 7 pound weight change. Now,
Wow.
that's not my, like from starting to where my lowest weight was. My lowest
Yeah.
weight that I've ever seen as an adult was actually the Monday after the Olympia. I mean, that was like a scary weight. I'm like, well, this is not good. But it bounced back. I mean, I was just like from driving all day and being
Yeah.
in the desert heat for a few days. I was just
Yeah.
super dehydrated because like, 4 or 5 days later, I was back up like 4 or 5 pounds. So it was
Okay.
fine.
Yeah.
And like right now I'm sitting just below like my first stage weight and like a little tiny bit above my second stage weight. And I didn't
Okay.
think it's like after my first show, my coach with the feedback that I could be, like my glutes could be a little tighter, knowing that I wasn't going to really put in any muscle in 6 weeks, like meaningful muscle, like, well, let's just go for as lean as we possibly can. Like, let's win the
Okay.
conditioning card. And he's like, there was a point when I was like 3 weeks before my second show. And he's like, you feel good. You want to keep pushing for like 1 more pound. And I'm at the time looking at myself like, 1 more pound. Is this man crazy? Like, where's that going to come from? And I ended up losing like 3 more pounds. So it came
Wow.
from somewhere.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't believe how much weight I lost in prep. I was losing 3 pounds a week for most of it. Uh,
Yikes.
yeah. And then we got to a point where we kind of just held my weight for a while. I started at
Yeah.
225 and then I got down to like the 190s and then we just kind of sat there. And then my scale, it was really weird. My scale went down to like 184 or 183, but on show day, the scale at the venue, I was 193.
Wow.
And it's not like we did this huge carb up. So I think my scale was just vastly wrong the whole time.
Or theirs was. I mean, who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah. Yeah. Who knows? But yeah, it was kind of crazy. It was like weight was just falling off me. It's very
Wow.
easy.
But
Yeah.
that's good. I mean, being able to hold conditioning, I feel like it allows your body to kind of catch up so you don't look over
Yeah.
dieted.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely didn't. I definitely didn't. It'll be interesting to see how it works this year. Um, and how is it mentally for you? Or like, I guess, how's it been over the years mentally each year? How would you describe the mental process of prep for you? And how is this year different?
This year was drastically different because I was single for the first time ever in prep. And at the very start of prep, I actually talked to my coach about it because I was a little bit nervous about being single, only because I felt like I, in previous preps, had been able to really channel any like spare time or desire to eat or anything into kind of taking care of other people.
Mm,
So I never really had to sit with any of those feelings because I could always keep busy. I could
yeah.
do this, I could do that. I also spent a lot of time, cooking delicious food for other people that I was not eating and other things that kind of let me feel like that creative outlet because I really do love to cook. So like
Yeah.
I was worried that not having that I would really struggle. Um, And I will say this, there are a lot of positives and negatives of both sides of being in a relationship during prep and being single during prep. It turned out to not be a struggle at all for the reasons I was afraid of at the beginning of like kind of that like idle time was not a problem. Um, it was kind of tough, not having like an in-person support because of course my coach is remote, but I have such a great, online community of like you and all the AB Live guys that helped so much, like
That's
being able
awesome.
to like have that support.
Yeah.
And then of course, my assistant's super supportive and there are some people in my life who are really not supportive of my prep, and that's always challenging.
Mm.
But mentally, I think this year I did better. I don't know, every year. I mean, it kind of goes by so fast when you look back on it. So you don't really realize the struggle while you're in it, but it is hard when you start realizing that you're compromised. And I start feeling bad for like the people around me.
Mm.
And this year not having to be, not having a significant other, I didn't have that stress of like the
Yeah.
relationship stress or feeling like I wasn't showing up for my partner.
Yeah.
But I definitely felt it at work, like I wasn't quite myself, and just like those are the things I struggle with
Yeah.
more than anything. And that's I feel like it's gotten better every year though. And it maybe just because your body gets better at it. And I do tell people that like the more times you prep, at least for me, like it's like your body remembers and it's not as hard. And
Yeah.
even like, I do a podcast for work, and the podcast producer, he said the same thing. He's like, oh yeah, he's like last year, he's like, there was like a flip that got or a switch that got flipped. He's like, your cadence, like how fast you talked. He's like everything. He goes, there's one point, he goes, we came back, after taking a break, and he's like, and you were literally just like, he's like, it was like you were a puppy. He's like, you're just staring into the camera. I'm like, and that didn't happen this year at all. So
Yeah.
it was a little bit better, but man, you can't escape prep brain at some point. Like it
Yeah.
comes for everybody.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I did my best. I think I didn't do a good enough job of communicating with my wife about what I would be like. Like I told her that it would be hard and like I would be tired, but I didn't do a good enough job describing to her that like I wouldn't really be emotionally available.
Yeah.
Like my wife, love her to death. She likes a lot of validation. Like her love language is words of affirmation.
Oh,
And at a certain point in prep, I just wasn't doing that.
yeah.
And that's not fair to her. And also I didn't communicate it properly. So she didn't expect that to happen. So that was tough. But I didn't get like moody or like angry with her, anything like that. I didn't flip out or anything like that. I just kind of shut down a little bit too much. So yeah, that's a goal to work on for next time is to improve.
Yeah. That does happen. I mean, I think that is the biggest part of it. And but you don't even really realize like the apathetic kind of undertones of all of your interactions at some point. And
Yeah.
until you've been through it, I mean, there's no real way to prep your partner for that because you
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I agree. It's like I'm the same way. Like you're not angry or unhappy or mad, but like you just kind of become like flat.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's tough.
Mhm.
What's something you learned about yourself, either mentally, physically, that was new this prep, that you'll carry forward with you?
Well, physically, that I can push myself to a place I didn't think I could. And that if I can do this again, but with more muscle, hopefully it will be pretty impressive. Like
Yeah.
that's really exciting. And that I could hold the conditioning. Since I had like 6 weeks in between the shows, I was worried I wouldn't be able to hold the conditioning for
Mm,
that long.
yeah.
And that ended up not being a problem. So
Yeah.
that I definitely will. Uh, the mental part of it, I mean, just kind of every little drop in the bucket of experience with like how to be your best self during prep and those reminders. I learned things about how I can, better communicate, like you said, like how I can communicate these things more efficiently and how I can just kind of manage my own self and not have to project it out,
Mm,
but also then just not project out anything at all. Cause like I said, that flat is not good either.
yeah.
And staying a little bit more present with how I'm feeling, but also how I'm showing up for the people around me.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's great. And absolutely, I think you absolutely proved that you can get very lean. And I think it will be incredibly impressive if you can add some size to that too, when you add some
Yeah.
size to that too.
I need to grow. This is why I can't be working out in a subpar gym.
Yeah. And what were some of the like biggest challenges you had this prep? I know you had some fiascos with suits.
That,
Um,
oh,
but what else what were some of the like roadblocks or stumbling blocks along the way?
the suit was definitely the biggest one. I mean, I tried to maintain a grace with that oh, that was so frustrating. It
Yeah,
really was. And at some point, I kind of just had to let it go. I
yeah.
also feel like the other thing that was really a hindrance was I did not spend enough time posing.
Mm,
My gym, the gym that is now closed, was also moved like kind of around the beginning of the year. And so
okay.
there was no posing room at the new
Yeah.
gym. I mean, there's kind of an area where I could, so I would pose a little, but I didn't put the amount of time into posing that I have in previous preps or that I really should
Yeah.
have. And the posing coach I was working with at the beginning of prep, I don't feel like was really able to efficiently communicate with me. I mean, the last posing session we did, she literally was getting her hair blown out while she was trying to do a posing session with me.
Okay.
So that was really frustrating. I was fortunate enough, I know Jessica Wilson, and she actually, in between like her show and the Olympia, we were able to get in a posing session. And I feel like that made a huge difference. And
Awesome.
and that's one of my goals for the off season is to make sure I'm spending a lot more time because my presentation on stage, as much as I feel like I'm projecting something really great, like when I go back and look at the pictures, like I know that part of the reason why I placed as poorly as I did this season was because there's the first show being out, the first show, not so much. That was kind of weird. But the second show, like the woman who beat me was a first time competitor. I had no business losing to her on paper or even in like pictures, but when you look at the deeper part of it, like you see her, she was just bubbly and like it was just like exuding this like fun poppiness
Yeah.
that I just my presentation tends to be a little bit more sophisticated is what my coach calls it, but it just comes off as a little bit, I think, not welcoming maybe. And I'm
Okay.
smiling,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so like, but I need to get a little more like pop in
Yeah.
my everything on stage.
Yeah.
And that's so those the stage presentation part
Yeah.
is a big part. And in bikini, we're judged on so much. I need to get
Yeah. I
hair
was gonna say,
extensions, yep, that I did not do this year, and just some other things that I can work on from the presentation side that I think will help my placings as well, because those things are all judged.
yeah,
They're
it's
all judged.
crazy. It's crazy how important that stuff is in,
Yes.
I forget sometimes.
Yeah, if they don't like your suit color and
Yeah.
your physiques are all pretty close, like, well, I don't like that, or if
Yeah.
it doesn't complement your skin tone, like you're not going to place well.
Yeah.
And like, or if your jewelry is distracting, like I did
Yeah.
switch that up for my second show, like put a smaller piece of jewelry on my backhand,
Yeah.
to make it, to not add any, additional kind of visual weight to the waist. So if you're gonna have a bigger bracelet, you put it on your forward facing hand, not on your rear hand. It's just those
Interesting.
little subtle things
Yeah.
that like somebody looking at you in just that split second may not realize that they're
Yeah.
seeing, but they make a difference.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even think of all that. Yeah, for me, I was absolutely horrible at posing at the
Oh,
beginning of prep, and I was like passable by the end. But I spent an ungodly amount of money and time with posing coaches.
yeah.
And like you said, there's really a spectrum of people out there, is what I learned.
Hmm.
Some a lot more helpful and courteous and professional than others. But yeah, it was definitely a worthwhile investment. And I think now that I know the right people to work with and also have since prep found like people I could actually see locally, that I will do a lot better job with, hopefully. This
Yeah.
is
I've never had an in-person posing coach, and that
yeah,
is something I'd like to try and do,
yeah,
and just kind of see if it is a little bit
yeah.
different. There is a gym here that does a weekly posing seminar, but it's always at the same time as the AB Live. So
Oh, that's
it's really
tough.
hard to get to. Yeah. I'm hoping that, and the other thing too that I see actually on the local stage at least, there are a couple of local posing coaches and they pose all of their clients exactly the same. And I don't like the way they pose
Mhm.
them.
Yeah,
So I feel like there's a benefit of being with a national or a national competitor, especially like Jessica Wilson is an Olympian and she's on the stage on a regular basis. So I'd rather pose more to progress than to
yeah,
pose to what the locals are
yeah,
doing.
totally. That makes total sense. Yeah. Yeah, I found the right online person can find the right cues for you and communicate in a way and has the patience to try different things with you,
Mhm.
that I think it can be very, very good. But yeah, just like you, I've only had like friends or coaches giving me posing help, never like a posing coach in person.
Mm.
So I'm definitely excited to try that as well.
Yeah. Well, where you have such great, I mean, availability where
Yeah,
you live. Like
yeah.
it's like the bodybuilding world of the East
Yeah,
Coast.
yeah. Yeah, it's not as convenient as some people think. Like, I don't have a car, and a lot of these gyms are like 2 hours away. So that's a very expensive Uber, or I have to like rent a car. But yeah, I'm still very lucky to be kind of at the epicenter of a lot of these good gyms.
Who is your coach for this prep?
Dom Kuza, Dominic
Oh,
Kuza. Yeah,
oh,
he's
yeah,
great.
that
He's
would be
very smart.
awesome.
He's definitely like
Yes.
one of the smartest people I've ever talked to in the bodybuilding world and very considerate. And what I like about him that he does better than any coach I've worked with before is like he collects a lot of data, not too much, but he has like, a standard check-in sheet and like different things you fill in about your week. But he really lasers in on like the thing that's making the biggest difference.
Hmm.
So like you could tell him all this stuff and he won't necessarily even respond to all the things you tell him. Or like if you ask questions, he would. But if you just give him a lot of information, he'll be like, okay, we're going to focus on this. Like this is the thing we're going to spend time on. Whether it's an adjustment to your training or, he helped me a lot when um, I was concerned about my kidneys and I had a kidney ultrasound,
Mm.
or when I had my back MRI, he was helping me with pain stuff and um, different things around PT and mobility. And like, he's just very good at addressing different problems. And like, he's like a sniper at lasering in on like the one thing that matters the most.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
really awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, I've really enjoyed working with him, and I think a lot of the Camp Janssen coaches who are very successful at the national level, like they use his peaking strategies, which is really
Hmm.
cool. Like they,
Yeah, they get guys ripped. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
Dom.
they borrowed a lot of that stuff from Dom. So,
Yeah.
it'll be really cool to see what he does, especially if I need to cut weight for my category. That'll be fun.
Yeah. Oh, that is so cool. I mean,
Yeah.
I followed him because he actually is kind of one of the first bigger name coaches who talked so much about not treating bikini competitors or female competitors in general, just like tiny men,
Mm,
and I feel like really changed the way a lot of other coaches approach coaching female athletes because of the
yeah.
things that he has said and done and monitoring labs and just he really
Mm,
respects the female categories in a way I feel like a lot of
yeah.
other big coaches don't.
That's cool. Yeah, yeah. Um, well, Amy, what's something you're really looking forward to going forward? Like you have this growing season, you're excited to put on muscle. What else are you looking forward to in the next year?
I am super excited to put on some muscle for sure. And more than that, I mean, I feel like I'm just trying to kind of embrace every season of life as it comes at me and, just be a lot more like, I don't know, in the moment, not, I spent a lot of the last decade, like I said, really embroiled in work, which is awesome, but also it's so isolating. Like you don't see the world around you in those moments. So just trying to kind of yeah, like self-centered is not the right word, but not be so myopic in my view of my world, like and remembering to see that like the big world around me on a more regular basis and like really take it in. Just time goes by so fast. I mean, I can't believe there's what like 8, 9 weeks left in this entire year.
Yeah,
Well, no, 10 weeks, 10,
crazy.
11 weeks,
Yeah,
but with the holidays in there, like who can even know? So just not losing sight of like the bigger picture. And that
yeah,
prep can kind of do that too. You get so
yeah,
focused on these like 12 weeks, these 12 weeks that like, well, these
yeah,
12 weeks passed and like what else happened? Did anything
yeah,
else happen?
yeah,
So like, yeah, staying is like expanding my vision of my bubble.
yeah. Well, I think the good thing is you have a great community around you, and also like being able to go to these events like
Yes.
the Olympia and maybe the Arnold and stuff like that. Like that really, I feel, helps give you a different perspective and also makes you appreciate the time more.
Yeah, well, it connects you to your community too, not
Yeah.
having any close friends, in person who are competing. I've won, but she moved to a different gym. So it's like, people travel
Yeah.
around, but it's that sense of like expansion, but also of connection that
Yeah.
is so great with traveling to events. And I am going to be at the Arnold. So I
Awesome.
have my tickets already. So I will
Cool.
definitely be there. Yeah. And it's bodybuilding is such an amazing community. Like they're
Yeah.
really good people who just want to be the best version of themselves through
Yeah.
all different types of forms. I mean, you see that especially at the Arnold because they've got so many other sports. I
Mm.
mean, it's called the Arnold Sports Fest for a reason. I mean, they've even got like cheerleading competitions and the strongman and the wheelchair events. I mean, it's all people just wanting to like make their body do something really awesome.
Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah. I haven't been, but I'd love to go. That sounds really fun.
Oh, you should absolutely try and make it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's February in Columbus, but
Yeah. I'm
it's
definitely going to the Detroit Pro, so maybe I'll
oh,
do the two
nice.
of those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Amy. I'll have your Instagram and is there any other way you want people to contact you if they want to reach out?
Instagram's the best. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, great. Thanks again for the time.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott.